أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم لا سهلا إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. So today inshallah, as you all have heard and have seen, inshallah we'll be discussing a very important topic today, which I'm really excited that you all gonna join me today as we dive into discussing how to discipline our kids, how to correct them, and how to guide them to make sure they do what we want them to do, and training them on the path of Islam, on the path of Iman. You know, have you ever raised your voice at your child? Maybe they did something really very bad, or they did something that you dislike. Have you ever raised your voice, on them, or you tried to spank them or beat them, and later on you regret it, a few moments after you've done that? Sometimes you do something that's really not good to the kids out of hunger, and you realize and you regretted what you did after. So if this has ever happened to you, that's the real thing that I want to discuss today, and how can you actually avoid that and make your child love you and at the same time obey you. There's a difference between making your child love you. You give them everything they want. You're not helping them, but you want to make sure they love you and they listen to you and do the right thing. So as Muslim parents, we all want to raise our kids, being respectful, emotionally grounded, children who have Islamic principles built in their life, who love Islam. But how do we actually make this work without having to fear, yelling, screaming, and getting hungry over little things, and managing our relationship with our kids? What is even Islamic discipline? This is really something that you all need to think of. A lot of people today, they term, discipline based on what the culture they live in defines discipline to be. And not necessarily could that be that, some cultures are used to spanking and beating and, making life difficult for kids, or some cultures are really very lenient and give the kids everything they want. Islam as want us to be, a middle ummah. Allah says in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا. And this is how Allah has made you the ummah, the nation of the middle, a just nation that's in between, excesses and, and not doing enough, right? We don't want to be doing too much, or we don't want to be doing too less. So Allah has put us in the middle. So, Islam differentiates between you having to do ta'deeb of a child. Ta'deeb is when you discipline a child. Allah told us, Salam told us in hadith al-Qudsi, أدبني ربي فأحسن تأديبه, that Allah, my own Lord, actually, disciplined me, actually trained me, guided me on what to do, and I actually make good of that ta'deeb. So when you do ta'deeb, meaning you discipline a child, it's not about you punishing a child, right? So discipline is different from punishment. Some people feel like they eat a child, they scream at a child, they take away a tablet from a child, it's them discipline the child. No, no. So ta'deeb is when you discipline a child. Uquba is when you punish a child and you let them get a consequence for something they've done that's wrong. It's two different things. Ta'deeb is you correct someone. You correct someone, like you tell them what to do. You guide them of what to do. But uquba, which a lot of people actually misuse to mean ta'deeb, it's punishment. So punishment is mostly a kind of a consequence of an action that will make the person feel some pain and feel some, some kind of heat in them. So it is different from discipline. Discipline is guidance. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Sallam told us in a hadith, that Addabani Rabbi fa ahsana ta'diba. Allah, disciplined me, actually guided me, meaning He gave him the guidance to do things and to respond to things and to react to things. Allah guided the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So it is there from Allah, punishing Rasulullah, never he did not, right? But He guided him. So we need to make a distinction between ta'deeb and uquba, right? We need to make a difference between that. Islam does not support punishment first. Of course, there's punishment in Islam for something, you get consequence for something you've done that's not right, So discipline is ta'deeb, and it's a form of guidance, guiding someone to do something. Uquba, punishment, is consequence, and Islam actually wants us to correct, to discipline before punishing. So this is what we'll be talking on today, inshallah. So we want to talk about how do we discipline first. So discipline is a form of guidance that you give to a child, right? Punishment is the most harsh, harshest form of way of treating a child or treating someone or having someone to feel the consequence of the action they've done. But ta'deeb, discipline is a way to guide a child, a guide to guide someone. Scientists have actually discovered that, kids or, at a certain age in life, they don't have the brain to think of the consequence of what they've done. They all just do it, but they don't know why they're actually doing it. They don't know what will be the consequence of it. So Islam taught us this, and this is what Allah told us in the Quran in Surah An-Nahl. Allah says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين. You want to guide your child and discipline them to the right path, to the path of Islam. What did Allah say? Allah says, call on to the path of your Lord bil hikmah, with wisdom, meaning you guide people with wisdom, wal maw'izatil al-hasana, and beautiful admonition, guidance to give people. So when you want to guide someone, you want to discipline someone, guide them to the right path, Allah says, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. You need to engage in dialogue with them. And this is something a lot of parents, the last thing they want to do is this. They don't want to dialogue with kids. They don't want to put themselves down and talk to their child and reason with the mindset of that child. This is what Allah said in the Quran. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. And argue with them with the best way, in the best approach of way to argue with them. This is about anyone. You trying to call a kafir to Islam, you're trying to call anyone to Islam or to guide them to the path of Islam, you need to actually do it with wisdom and you need to approach it with beautiful preaching and engage with them in dialogue. Let them say what they have in mind. You don't want just kind of react and punish. You want to understand what the child is feeling first before you actually knowing how to actually discipline them, meaning guide them, right? See, the word discipline is really a very beautiful words that people use to term punishment. It's two different words. So discipline is a form of guidance, and punishment is a form of consequence for something that's done that's not right. You see that? So discipline and punishment is two different things. But people now think that punishment is a form of discipline, which is not. So Allah wants us to guide people. So we get in our kids, we need to do that with wisdom and good words. You speak good word to them and sit them down and try to understand their own side of the story of why they did that and actually try to guide them. This is what guidance is in Islam. This is what tarbiyah is in Islam. Even you're 5 years old. You're 5 years old, did something that's wrong. What do you do? You don't just yell and scream at them. You sit them down. Okay, Muhammad, what happened? What do you do? Do you know what you did? Why do you do that? What way, try to sit them down, try to understand why they do that. And that way you can guide them and give them the path that they can follow. This is really the way Allah wants us to train our kids. And Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentioned in one of this book in Tufat Mawdud, he said تأديب الأطفال يحتاج إلى الرحمة في التعليم وحزم مع الحكمة. That when you raise kids and train kids, it requires some kind of teaching of manners. Teaching manners, you need to teach manners with compassion. So with love, but you need to teach with compassion, with firmness and wisdom. So you need to have some kind of love and compassion for the child, but you need to be firm that this is the way you need to do it, right? And then use wisdom to actually sit them down and think about what they're actually doing. So this is what discipline means in Islam. It's not about beating and screaming and yelling. That's not discipline in Islam. And this is not the way of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. And so what is the way and how did the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam actually discipline the kids? How did he relate with kids? So that's the next one we'll talk about right now. So we've defined what discipline means in Islam. It's a form of guidance. It's not a form of punishment. When you discipline someone, you guide them, you guide them when you discipline them. at-ta'deeb, not uquba. So a lot of people misuse the concept of discipline to mean punishment. That's not. Punishment is a form of consequence and it's not encouraged in the first place. Correction comes, guidance and ta'deeb comes before uquba, right? Now, so what did the Rasulullah did and how did he actually guide and train young kids? There are four ways in which I want you all to imbibe, which is from the tradition of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As we discuss this topic today, I want you all to reflect on this and actually, put in the comments what do you think about this topic. It's been on my mind for a while, and I did a lot of research, thinking about how do we actually help parents to guide your kids. A lot of the kids don't want to learn the Quran, they don't want to learn about Islam, even just about that. They don't want to do anything, just to play video games and do all things. How do you want to handle those kids? How do you want to handle them? They need support, they need guidance from you. They don't know what they're doing right now. We all been in those stages of life. Alhamdulillah, we were able to get parents that were compassionate, they were loving, they were, having wisdom to guide us. It's not, my dad never beat me before in my life. He's never beat me. Since I grew up as a young child, he's never laid his hand on me. My mom has never laid a hand on me, beating me like, maybe I did something wrong. Even as I grow up to be a teenager, they have never done that. Beat me or, they've not do that. So what I'm saying in essence is that even yelling and screaming, they don't do that, alhamdulillah, for the parent. So why do we want to actually imbibe the other way? A lot of people today, they yell, scream at their kids. How did the Rasul treat kids and actually discipline the children? So Salam used their four ways in hadith, which I want to actually share with you all today. One, Salam used gentle correction. Gentle correction. And another way Salam have used to treat kids and discipline them is also through dialogue, teaching through dialogue. You guide them through having conversation with them. Another way is, avoiding shaming them. Salam does not shame them. We're going to have an hadith to describe how Salam actually treated Anas bin Malik. Salam never shamed him. And it's a very long hadith we're going to talk about today. So, but four things I want you all to pick from the way Salam treated and disciplined kids. Anas bin Malik is one of the youngest Sahabi that actually lived with Salam. He was an orphan and he stayed with Salam. Salam, took him as, he has access to him, and his mom gave him to help Salam when he got to Medina. So Anas bin Malik told us from the perspective of a child how Salam actually trained him and disciplined him. So he used gentle correction, right? When something that's really not good he did, he doesn't scream and yell at him. He used wisdom to correct him. Yeah, Gulam, you should have done this. You shouldn't have done that. Not screaming and yelling. And also, he taught him and taught many of the kids with dialogue and engage them in discussion, not screaming. Parents, we all need to learn this. And we all need to learn the tradition of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A lot of us, that's why some people they see the Muslims as being harsh on kids, as being tough on kids. But many people actually act based on the culture they live in, not based on the teachings of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. So gentle correction, teaching through dialogue, discussing with them, avoiding to shame them in the public, when you correct them as well, do not think they're little. Correct them in private, especially for those who are much older a little bit. You don't want to take them the way you actually take a 5-year-old. They have sense of shame. They know if you shame them, and that will not make them do what you want them to do. An example of how Salam taught with love is the one I mentioned also last week when he was teaching Anas bin Malik. You want to teach him dua. You want to guide him. He said, Ya ghulam, oh, my little one, or oh, my little boy, oh, my son, or oh, little boy. Inni u'allimuka kalimat. I want to teach you some words. You see? I mean, like he called the boy and he endeared him to himself first. When you say Muhammad, yeah, Muhammad, it's not you going and say, Khalid, Khalid, what do you do? What have you done? People do that. The child is already scared. He's already scared of what the mom is going to say or the dad is going to say. This is the wrong way. This is the wrong approach in which we use these days, and we think our kids are not listening to us. This is not the way of Islam. True dialogue, gentle preaching. So he told Anas bin Malik, Ya ghulam, oh little boy, oh young boy, inni u'allimuka kalimat. Anas is the one narrating this hadith. He said, I want to teach you some words. Imagine how would you feel? How would your child feel if you call them that very soft voice? Oh my son, oh my daughter, how are you doing? I want to teach you something today. Do you want to learn? This is the way Wasallam. It doesn't mean you're weak as a dad, as a mom, but that's how Wasallam taught kids and taught Anas bin Malik. Now he told him what you want to teach him. You want to teach him about Tawheed. He said, Ya ghulam, oh young boy, inni u'allimuka kalimat. I want to teach you some words. I want to teach you some things. Ihfadillah, yahfaduk. Be aware of Allah and Allah will be aware of you. Meaning, be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah will protect you. Ihfadillah tajiduhu tujahak. Be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you will see that Allah will be your guide. So he's teaching him Islam and he's teaching him, the mindset of a mu'min, subhanAllah. So that word, the way Sallam actually called Anas bin Malik is profound. It's profound. And in another narration, Anas bin Malik said there was a day he was sent an errand by the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And as a little boy, he got carried away with other kids in the city of Medina and he was playing with them. And Rasulullah now got to know that Anas has not come back from the errand he sent him to. And he went out and saw him playing. What did he do when he saw Anas bin Malik? If it's you as a dad, you're like, what's where did I send you? What are you doing here? You scream and yell. Rasulullah didn't do that. And he touched Anas, he just touched him. And Anas felt, he realized what he's done. Like he calmly touched him and asked him whatever he has done. He asked him to go somewhere and he has not gone to do it. He didn't even say anything, and Anas actually realized what he's done. So meaning, like, we don't scream, we don't yell. We use gentle correction. We teach with love, through dialogue. Aisha anha mentioned one of the hadith, Ummana Aisha anha, he mentioned, he said, Wasallam said, Inna Allah raqiq yuhibbu rifq fil amr kullu. يحب الرفق في الأمر كله في الأمر كله. The Salam Aisha said Allah love softness, Allah love softness, softness, gentleness. When you take someone gentle with love, with softness, he said Allah said Inna Allah raqiq. Allah is gentle, meaning is so soft. Allah is calm. Allah is loving. يحب الرفقة, and he loves gentleness. في الأمر كله. He loves gentleness in all affairs, in all matters. And Salam said, you will not, put rifq or riq in something, and that thing will not, the consequence of applying rifq, of applying riq in something is it's gonna make it more better. You just kind of think of when you actually approach a child, gently and talk to them, in a very kind way, how would they react? Would they be bossy and hesitant? No, they want to listen to you and actually want to accept what you say. But whenever you scream and yell and you try to be the boss, they try to defend themselves as well. And so you being soft doesn't mean that you're actually weak. You want to actually get them and get their attention so that you can actually teach them and actually guide them. So in Islam, we are not taught. Allah didn't teach us. Islam didn't teach us to actually scream and yell and abuse and curse kids. That's not the way of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So just to kind of summarize the lessons of how Sallam actually train kids and discipline little kids is through, gentle preaching, gentle correction. It is something, it's not screaming and yelling. We all see, even this is not a child, how the Rasulullah dealt with the issue of Aisha anha when his wife Aisha, broke the plate of one of his wives of Rasulullah. The Rasulullah didn't scream and yell at Aisha. What he did, he took the plate of Aisha, that's not broken. He took it to the wife whose plate was broken, right? And he took the broken plate to Aisha. Just to let her know, you are actually so jealous. No screaming, no yelling. This is the plate that you actually broke. We replace the plate of the person you broke with yours. So when we actually apply this kind of wisdom in our life and with kids, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for all of us. It's really the best way to teach and train our kids. So not only loving us and loving Islam, because when you actually teach them and train them and give them the discipline of Islam, they know very well that this is how Islam wants us to train and deal with each other, with one another. And you'll see they will apply the same approach to their own kids as well. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for goodness. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make all our kids the coolness of our eyes. Brothers and sisters, what are the mistakes that we make in as parents? I've talked about what discipline means in Islam and how the Rasul approach discipline kids and training kids. There's some few mistakes that we do as parents, as guidance, and those who have kids and have teenagers under us that we need to avoid from today. One of the way we actually do that's really not good, is not Islamic, is when we discipline our kids as well. We discipline them, or we actually approach discipline out of frustration. It's not like you have recalculated what was going on, but you're actually so impulsive that the thing that happened right away, you want to react right away. Rasulullah said, Laysa shadid, that the person that is strong is not the person that is actually so powerful, but the person that can withhold themselves in anger. When they're supposed to get angry, they actually withhold themselves. That's why Allah said, وَالْكَاذِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ, those who are able to withhold their hunger. الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين in Surah Al-Imran. Those who spend on the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala في السراء, when they are having a lot of money, والضراء, and when they're actually not having money, والكاظمين الغيظ, and those who are able to withhold their hunger, they're able to sum it up, they're able to swallow the hunger when it's actually coming up. This is the strong person in Islam. And so when we train our kids and we want to discipline them, not punishing, you already understood the difference between the word discipline and punishment. So ta'deeb in Islam is different from uquba. So uquba is when you have given someone a consequence for what they've done, and maybe kind of deprive them of some good things, or you deprive them or give them some, anything that's going to deprive them and make them feel so sad, right? That is punishment. But discipline is a form of guidance. So sometimes we want to discipline our kids as parents as well, but what we approach is that we approach the discipline out of frustration. We talk to them, want to guide them, but we end up actually yelling them and saying, no, and trying to bash down the child, even if it's in the private. We didn't allow the child to talk. We just kind of saying everything we have in mind and just point our mind down, like, not allowing them to think and digest what we actually, wanting to say. Another challenge is when we, guide our kids, some of the times we actually employ some kind of embarrassment. You embarrass them before their friends, before their mates, and those are the worst way to actually treat and discipline a child. You don't want to embarrass them. Do not want to make them feel bad outside. Even as 1 year old, 6 years old, 5 years old, they are more sensitive to the environment around them. So embarrassing a child is really, really a bad thing to do. And also, when you overcorrect them, you don't give them freedom. Kids or children will make mistakes, and sometimes they learn from mistakes. When you say no, they want to say no, everything they say, you just say no, no. You don't even give them chance to think and try to experiment something that they might felt, it's really good, it's cool, but you think your own thinking that it's not right for them. Of course, you need to be actually, guided, and need to be guided, but not everything that you have to say no, 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 no to. This is overcorrection, like you say no to everything. Maybe sometimes they want to do something, you might actually, okay, it's a good idea, but maybe you might actually want to do it this way. That's a good way. So maybe you think what they want to do is actually not right. You might actually try to, regard them and say, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. You want to do something like this, but why not actually do it this way? I just put this or remove this from it. This is the best way to approach when your child is doing something that's not right, or they want to do something and you feel it's not right. So instead of you saying, no, 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 you can't do that, try to approach it in such a way to correct them, to guide them. And then when you're actually ignoring their emotional needs, they have something that they have in mind to tell you, but you don't have time to sit down with them. You feel that they're so sad. All you want is just for them to do what you want them to do. You don't even care about how they feel. This is bad. And that's Umar ibn Khattab anhu in one of his saying. He said, "لَعِبُوا أَبْنَاءَكُمْ سَبْعَةً." Right? وَأَدِّبُوهُمْ سَبْعَةً وَصَاحِبُوهُمْ سَبْعَةً. Subhanallah, it's a really very quote from him, and also Imam Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he actually brought this quote in his book Ahkam al-Nisa. He said, "La'ibu abna'akum sab'ah, la'ibu abna'akum sab'ah." وَأَدِّبُوهُمْ سَبْعًا وَصَاحِبُوهُمْ سَبْعًا. Subhanallah. That's amazing one. Meaning, play with your child for the first 7 years of their life. The first 7 years, it should be play, not, play with them, let them do what they want to do, give them that freedom a little bit. But the next 7 years, teach them, meaning discipline them, train them on, no, this is not right. This is not right. This is what you need to do. This is when you bring things into perspective and trying to preach Islam and trying to preach what Islam actually want them to do. Then he said, وَصَاحِبُهُمْ سَبْعًا. Now you've played with them for 7 years, first 7 years, and the next 7 years you actually train them, discipline them, train them and guide them. Meaning they are now 14 years old. From that 14 up to 21, Umar ibn Khattab said, وَلَاعِبُوا وَصَاحِبُوهُمْ سَبْعًا. Then when you actually see they are 14 and above, they're now matured, then befriend them. Befriend them. Let them be your pen pal. Do not see them as, as young anymore. Seek their opinions and things you want to do. Try to sit them down. You be their friends, subhanallah. And whenever they clock 21, they're already an adult. They're already adults, they can think on their own. So befriend them for the next 7 years. So when they turn, the first 7 years of their life, try to play with them. La'ibuhum. And then for the next 7 years after that, adibuhum, discipline them. Then when the clock 14 and above to 21 years, the next 7 years, you be their friend. So you be their friend, you made them feel like you are the person they need to come to if they need something, right? So these are some of the mistakes that we can improve on. One of them is when we actually discipline our kids. We do that out of frustration many times. A lot of people do that. We need to reduce that. We don't want to embarrass our kids in the public before everyone, before their friends. We don't want to overcorrect them. We sometimes we like to overcorrect kids and say, no, no, you cannot do that. Like I said, we can actually modify their request and say, okay, you want to do this? Why not adding this? Why not removing this? Why not making it a little bit like this? Try to guide them. If you feel what they actually wanted to do and they're seeking your request for, it's not really great. So try to help them modify it. And they will really be excited and not say, no, you cannot do that, you cannot do that. And that's it. You're not giving them an alternate opinion. That's not the way to go about training kids. And so whatever you teach them or want them to do, inshallah, they'll be able to do it if you actually approach them, the best way. And then you don't want to ignore their emotional feelings. We don't want to ignore that. You do not want to ignore that. The reason that if you ignore their emotional feelings, they will tell their feelings to other people outside, and they will actually guide them, incorrectly. So it is we Muslims parents, we have all these trainings. We don't need any psychologists. We don't need any counselor. This the Islamic way of disciplining our kids. These are the Islamic way of handling, correcting and making sure our kids are heeding to our advices and making sure our kids are actually listening to us and doing what we want. These are the ways that we need to talk to them. There's a lot of influence out there. We don't want to make it harder for them. Okay, so just to kind of recap the talk, to guide everyone and to kind of give us clear path on what to take and do today. When we actually relate to our kids and guide them, let us use calm warnings before consequences. We don't want to actually wants to, sometimes we get frustrated with discipline, like, correcting them. You correct them today, they did the same thing tomorrow. You want to actually use calm warnings, Muhammad, we've talked about this many times. Do not try to do that next time. If you do that, this is what will happen. Before actually, bringing that consequence out. But you've actually taken time to guide them, to talk to them. That's what Allah mentioned in Surah Nisa on how we deal with women. Allah said, فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ سَبِيلًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلِيًّا كَبِيرًا. That when you've tried all your ways to correct your women and they're not actually heeding to you, do not, do not, do not seek a way against them. Do not transgress against them. Try to approach them and try to correct them. But when they've done something repeatedly, they're not heeding to your discipline method, they're not heeding to your guidance, then give them some kind of calm warnings. We've talked about this many times, and I feel you're still not, heeding to my guidance. We talk about the consequence of it. We talk about why we need to do this as Muslims and all that. But I feel, maybe we might need to take away your phone from you, for a while to kind of have you focus on this stuff, something like that. Or maybe we might have to take away your game for a while, for a week or month to see how, so that you can focus on that. So taking away the game is a punch, but you giving them, anticipating that kind of getting them anticipate the warning, anticipate the punishment. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does for people as well. You know, إن الله لا وما كان ربك مهلك القرى بظلم إلا وأهلها ظالمون. Right? Allah will not come and destroy a nation except for the people who actually oppresses themselves. Allah said, وَمَا نُرْسِلُ بِالْآيَاتِ إِلَّا تَخْوِيفًا. And we don't send, messages and ayats just to warn people, to give them preempt, the warning that's gonna come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we actually train our kids and try to, before we even go to the act of punishment, we need to give them some calm warning before the consequence of the punishment comes. And then whenever we actually discipline our kid, let us set limits. Let's set limits and let them know that. Let them set limits. Let's set limits with them. Oh, this is what you can do. This is what you cannot do, and everything should be agreed upon. It's really good sitting down with your child and actually guiding them and letting them know this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do. And based on the rule of Islam, based on being a Muslim and morality and all that, let them know and let them know the limits. Then you can redirect their behavior. So it's not really a good thing when you say no, 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 stop it. You cannot do it. How some parents do that. We can redirect and modify whatever thing that we feel it's not good that they want to do. So lastly, we need to make dua for our kids. We need to make dua for them. It's not enough as a parent for you to have all the trainings. Maybe you put your child in the madrasa, you train some people when they have kids, like for instance in our program now, they just want the kids to just be saints. All of a sudden they want the kids to be able to know the Quran, to be able to know everything about Islam all of a sudden, but the parents is actually doing otherwise. They don't even care if the kids are doing homework, they're actually doing their classes. They don't even care to practice what the kids are learning at home. They don't pray either. But they say the kids cannot pray. But you do not pray at home, so your kids are not seeing you. So we need to actually, experiment and exemplify what we do at home. But we need to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the dua, I mentioned one of them last week, in Surah Al-Furqan. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما. This is a beautiful dua. Let us go memorize this dua and learn it. It's a really important dua. And let's say it often with sincerity. And there's another dua in Surah Ibrahim, which Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam mentioned when he built the Kaaba. He said, رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. That, oh Allah, oh my Lord, make me establish the prayer. Let me be able to observe salah and for my own family and descendants. He's praying for himself, for his family and his descendants. He's praying to Allah to make them those who offer prayers, those who offer salah. Subhanallah. This is a profound way of actually connecting ourselves and our kids to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to the teachings of Islam that we want them to grow and live upon, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us and to guide every one of us. Uh, just kind of recap, discipline is not punishment, or punishment is not discipline. So when you punish a child, you don't discipline them. You're actually giving them consequences right away, and that's not what should come first. The ta'deeb should come before uquba, and we should treat kids with mercy, with lenience, with humility. We should humble them, make them feel good and connected to us. Let's start early, let's be consistent, let's be firm, and let's use the guidance of the Quran, the guidance of the hadith and the sayings of Umar ibn Khattab. And as you had me talk about all this for the last 30 minutes, if you have any comments, or you actually right now struggling to getting your child to learn to recite the Quran, maybe your child is really behind, and maybe they could be having motivation issues, or they actually been learning for too long. Maybe something else is actually affecting them. So there'll be a link below this video. You can schedule time with me. I do have free 30-minute sessions with parents every week. I have like about 10 spots weekly. So grab any of the spots, talk to me privately, inshallah, so to see what issues your child is having. And so maybe we can have a roadmap, that could be designed for us together to see how we can implement that and have your child, inshallah, turn a good life and be a better Muslim, inshallah. So check the link below this video if you need any help, maybe with having your child, helping them learn to recite the Quran, or you want to actually get some other private guidance about their life with me, inshallah. So check the link below this video. You see one of my calendar there, book to join one of my parent demo calls for our Quran reading program. We want to actually talk to me personally. You see a 50-minute video once you actually put in your information, and this will tell you about our Quran reading program if that's what you want, or you want some other things to discuss with me. You will see a calendar after that 15 minutes watching that video about our program, and then you can actually book a one-on-one call with me, inshallah. So هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبدك ونبيك محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. So subscribe to this channel, inshallah, so you can, stay tuned to all our, discussions, lives, and all our posts every week, inshallah. I'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum